So tonight, the exciting conclusion of the Wicked of Oz. We will join Dorothy trapped in the Witch's castle. Dorothy has been traveling the Elbrus Road with her mission. She still held the Tin Man and the Lion, and this witch has been threatening them all along the journey. So as we said earlier, the witch is our shadow side, the ego run riot. It's the part of us that wants to be in complete control and feels completely separate from God. The witch believes everything is up to her. She has to struggle to get the outcome that she wants. She will use trickery, magic, intimidation, or threat, whatever it takes to make the world the way she wants to have it in order to feel safe. Now, none of us ever do anything like that, but she's a witch. So finally, she sends her evil monkeys to capture Dorothy and Toto, and to tear apart the Scarecrow and to bang up the Tin Man. The monkeys are the outer things that seem to attack us and force us into a dungeon of fear. So Dorothy is trapped in the witch's castle with the sands of the hourglass running out on her life. And once again, she's trying to protect Toto. She's desperate. This time she's even willing to give up the ruby slippers. Let's watch. Divine policy. It's so kind of you to leave me alone. What are you going to do with my dog? Give it back to me. Oh, please give me back my dog. I knew you. But that's not the very reason. It's how these things must be done delicately, or you hit the stone. Maybe too intense for young audience. But don't you know that feeling, that helpless, hopeless feeling? We all have times when we feel abandoned and isolated and we can't see any way out. And everyone has a price. Remember when they first went to see the wizard, the lion was ready to give up his dream of ever having courage just so he wouldn't have to face his fear of the wizard. And here Dorothy is ready to give up the ruby slippers to save Toto. And of course, watching them, we want to scream at the screen and, no, don't do it. Because we can see them giving away the strongest part of themselves. What are you willing to give up to stay safe? What is the best part? What if it's the best part of yourself? Now, you might argue, well, I have a good reason. Now, Dorothy wants to save Toto. You might say, I'm sacrificing for my children. Or like the cowardly lion, sometimes we might choose to stay in our comfort zone, even if that means giving up our dreams. And we all make difficult choices, but it's just worth considering the costs to make sure it's not our essence that we're giving up. Dorothy would do anything to save Toto, but Toto gets away on his own. And you remember who Toto is. Toto is the Latin word for everything, and our inner Toto is the part of our souls that attracts whatever we need. It leads us into situations for our higher learning that we might not have chosen for ourselves. It's also the part that brings help through the law of attraction. So Toto goes for help. He brings back the good guy. He calls upon intellect, love, and courage to come to the rescue. So the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion climb over these stone mountains, and finally they're looking down on the castle and they see the changing of the guards. And the Scarecrow has an idea. Of course, he's the one who says he has no brains, but he has all the good ideas. And he says to the Lion, he's got an idea about how to get in the castle, and he says to the Lion, you're going to lead us. So the Lion has to bring forth some courage. All the best in them is called to the forefront throughout their journey and in this situation. And that's how it works for us. It's how life works. It's how prayer works. If we want more courage, for instance, we won't just wake up one morning suddenly feeling courageous. We will be given opportunity to be courageous. The Scarecrow gets opportunities to use his head. The Tin Man gets opportunities to call forth love. And doesn't it sound familiar? And we've said before, if you pray for patience, what you'll get are trying opportunities to practice patience. Whatever we want is not magically bestowed upon us because we already have it. What we're given are the opportunities to call it forth and cultivate it. Our fear that we don't have enough, our fear of lack, our fear of failure, is based on projections into the future. If we can stay in the moment, we will have everything we need. When we need it, it shows up. And really, why should it show up before we need it? And we would love to have that kind of reassurance, but instead we get an opportunity to call forth faith that whatever we need will be there because it is already part of us. So, as they approach the witch's castle, the Lion is faking his courage. But he keeps going. Fake it till you make it. They go into the castle following the guard with drawbridges drawn up behind them, and Toto leads them to Dorothy. They break down her door, they get her out of that room, and they all start to run away from the guards and the witch. Here's what happens. You'll see the first three go before her. And then we'll cut it off, too. How about a little better? Yeah,
I didn't mean to. Really, I didn't. It's just that he was on fire.
Hail to Dorothy, the wicked witch is dead. Hail to Dorothy, the wicked witch is dead.
Please, may we have it?
Please, and take it with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Now we can go back to the wizard and tell him the wicked witch is dead.
The wicked witch is dead, and I believe my eyes.
Who would have thought a good little girl like you could destroy all that beautiful wickedness? That's the final lament of the ego. Not that our egos are wicked, but they've constructed everything they need to feel safe. Big stone castles with moats and drawbridges and flying monkeys and guards. And a simple dash of water melts it all, a cleansing. This is what happens in spiritual transformation. The ego kicks and screams, and particularly it uses the intellect to say, this is dumb. This touchy-feely stuff will never work. It's embarrassing. You'll never change, and you don't really need to. Does anybody else have that voice? That's the ego speaking through the intellect. And notice how the witch always goes for the scarecrow first. The intellect. She scares him the most. Our fear is mostly in our head. But the struggle with the witch is not a bad thing. The witch has been Dorothy's greatest teacher. She's been the greatest for all of them. The witch has forced them to call upon their inner reserves and learn who they truly are and act from their best selves. We would say they've learned to live from the Christ within. So they take her broomstick and they go back to the wizard. The wizard, the Old Testament God. Angry, vengeful, fire and brimstone. Until Toto pulls back the curtain and reveals the wizard is just a man. He says he's a good man, just a very bad wizard. So now, consider this. What Toto has done, pulling back the curtain, is what Jesus did for us in terms of our relationship to God. He said, see, God is not an angry ruler. He doesn't demand worship with fear. Jesus called him Abba, Daddy, Papa, and said, God is like a good father. He only wants the best for us. Well, the wizard, who only wants the best for these people, explains how his hot air balloon went off course and landed in Oz, and the people there couldn't explain it, so they made him the Almighty. His power is only the power that they have given him, based on their superstition and belief. Maybe they just needed someone to worship. Maybe they felt safer thinking somebody was in charge. But the great lesson of the story of the Wizard of Oz is that we're the ones in charge. We already have everything we need. And the wizard points out to the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion that they've always had what they've always wanted. He gives them a diploma and a heart-shaped watch and a medal of courage to honor those qualities in them, but they've always had them. And their journey on the yellow brick road has proved it. And then he promises to get back in his balloon and take Dorothy home to Kansas. So one more thing from the movie.
And otherwise hobnob with my brother Whittaker. And I hereby decree that until what time, that I return to
That's very kind of you. But this could never be like you. And I must have stopped wondering what happened to me by now. I was scared so
But didn't she just always hate it that she ended up back in Kansas? If she goes back to the black and white world, how will she ever be happy again? They'll never believe her about Oz. They're always going to think she's a little crazy, well, you know, ever since she got that bump on the head in the tornado. And that's what happens when we raise our consciousness. When we take steps toward transformation other people may not understand, and they may conclude we're just a little crazy. But it's pointless to do the work unless we can go home and apply it in our daily black and white lives. Oz represents one of those rare, direct experiences of God. They come sometimes through meditation, through a great workshop or a conference, or maybe therapy. It's any time when we get a glimpse of our true selves. And just for a moment, the universe makes sense, and we know who we are and how we fit into God's plan. It feels wonderful. And the real challenge is to come home to our black and white world and remain in that consciousness, knowing our own divinity. All of these people were dormant before Oz. The scarecrow was stuck up on a post, the way Dorothy was stuck on that farm. The Tin Man was rusted in place. The lion was paralyzed with fear. And their experiences freed them. It introduced them to their own Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, God within, higher self, however you describe that. And for our own journey to that, we need what each of them represents. Intellect, at its best, is wisdom, and we said earlier it's a combination of logic and intuition. So it's partly only figuring out, but it's also inner knowing. The heart, we need love for our journey, for other people, but especially for ourselves. We need courage to embrace the shadow, our inner witch, and throw water on her when she needs it. It's all necessary for our transformation to discover our true selves, the way that Dorothy discovered herself and her power. Now we can see that they had it all along. They didn't really have to go through all of that. The story of The Wizard of Oz is a classic hero's journey. And you know the drill on the hero's journey. Someone is called forth to adventure. They meet friends and enemies along the way. They are tested, usually in frightening, life-threatening ways, and then they return home with a treasure. We tell that story over and over in different ways because it resonates so deeply with our experience as human beings. But is it really necessary? Tonight, I just invite you to consider that fighting enemies and being tested, even though it's a familiar journey, may not be required. If we could truly know who we are, know our divinity, know our own power and intellect and love and courage, we wouldn't need to travel down the yellow brick road. And we might miss all that drama. But just consider, as you are envisioning your life from here on, that the hero's journey with all of its struggle may be wearing out as a metaphor for our lives. We don't have to keep affirming and keep assuming that life will be hard or that we can only grow through pain. When Dorothy clicks her heels and says there's no place like home, there's no struggle or pain. She's just creating her reality from her own power. And we have the same power. So instead of walking through the dark forest, worrying about witches or lions and tigers and bears, we could just know who we are. We could recognize the Christ in us and begin to live from it without having to be tested and proven. To quote the British philosopher Elton John, but listen to what he said. I finally decided my future lies beyond the yellow brick road. We don't stay in Oz forever. We don't keep up our search forever. We eventually learn that we already have everything we need. And knowing that will transform our black and white worlds into color without ever leaving home. When we carry that divine consciousness with us, wherever we are, we'll be home. And there is no place like home.
I got a marriage proposal today.